Welcome, dear Buddhists and everyone, to the Buddhist Knowledge Hub channel. Today, we will take a detailed look at who was Shakyamuni Buddha? What is the path to liberation and enlightenment? Let's find out right now. Dear Buddhists and friends, Shakyamuni Buddha was originally a prince, born in 624 BC in the kingdom of Kapilavastu. This land is now located in northern India, bordering Nepal. His father was King Suddhodana, and his mother was Queen Maya. King Suddhodana married both Queen Maya and her younger sister, Mahapajapati. For many years, the king and queen had no children, and they longed for a prince to be the heir to the throne. When the king was nearly 60 and the queen was over 40, King Suddhodana and Queen Maya devoted themselves to acts of charity, helping the poor far and wide. During a festival, after the queen had finished distributing alms to the needy, she returned to the palace to rest. As she drifted into sleep, she had a miraculous dream. A snow-white elephant descended from the heavens. The elephant, holding a beautiful lotus flower in its trunk and possessing 6 tusks, glided down on the clouds, approached her, and entered her womb through her right side. Upon waking, the queen was filled with the scent of an extraordinary, delicate fragrance. She immediately recounted the dream to her husband, King Suddhodana. The king summoned the royal fortune tellers, who prophesied that the queen would conceive a uniquely gifted prince. Soon after, the prophecy began to unfold. In ancient India, custom dictated that a woman return to her parents' home to give birth and stay there for a period of care. Thus, Queen Maya began her journey from the capital, Kapilavastu, to her home country. On the way, they stopped in a beautiful grove known as Lumbini. Upon stepping out of her carriage, the queen reached out to hold onto a branch of an Ashoka tree. It was in that very moment that she gave birth to the prince. According to the scriptures, as the prince was born, birds sang joyfully, flowers bloomed in abundance, the sky transformed with breathtaking beauty, and celestial music resonated in the air. A truly wondrous and sacred event. As soon as the prince was born, he unexpectedly took 7 steps. With each step, a lotus flower bloomed beneath his feet. Upon taking the 7th step, he raised one hand to the sky and the other to the earth, declaring, "Above heaven and below heaven, I am the most honored. Throughout the world, all beings are subject to birth, aging, illness, and death." After uttering these words, the attendants gently lifted the prince, placed him in a royal carriage, and escorted him back to the palace to announce the joyous news. King Suddhodana was overjoyed and ordered the entire kingdom to celebrate for several months. The people rejoiced in song and dance, truly celebrating the birth of the prince, for they deeply loved and respected the king and queen for their kindness and compassion. Once the prince had safely arrived at the palace, King Suddhodana summoned the royal sages and seers to interpret his son's destiny and read his marks. First, the king invited a venerable ascetic who had practiced for many years, a sage nearly 100 years old living in the Himalayas, to come down and read the prince's features. When the prince was brought out into the palace hall, the sage caught sight of him and immediately prostrated himself, filled with profound astonishment. The prince's countenance was truly extraordinary and radiant, with a golden complexion of rare beauty. Upon closer inspection, the sage saw that the prince possessed all 32 major marks and 80 minor marks of greatness. Amazed, he bowed his hands to the king and declared, "Your Majesty, you have been blessed with a uniquely gifted prince. he shall grow to be a truly great being. This child, if he remains a layperson, will become a universal monarch, ruling over the four corners of the world. However, if he chooses to leave the household life, he will attain enlightenment as a Buddha, liberating all sentient beings. Initially, the sage smiled with great joy, but then he suddenly broke into tears. King Suddhodana, puzzled, asked, "Why do you smile and weep in turns?" The sage, Asita, replied, "Your Majesty, I smile because I rejoice for you and the kingdom to have such an enlightened prince. But I weep out of sorrow for my own fate. I am now very old and near death. I will not live long enough to receive the teachings of this prince. My heart is heavy because I will miss the chance to be guided by him, and that is why I cannot hold back my tears." Afterward, the sage Asita took his leave of the king and departed. The prince was truly more precious than gold or jewels. In fact, all the gold and jewels in the world could not compare to him. Everyone in the palace cherished the prince deeply. His birth brought such immense joy and happiness that even the servants were filled with delight. The entire palace was vibrant and jubilant. However, after hearing Asita's prophecy, King Suddhodana still harbored some doubts. The king then summoned 5 more renowned fortune-tellers of the Brahmin caste to continue examining the prince's features. Upon seeing him, all 5 sages unanimously declared that the prince was the most extraordinary being in the world, possessing supreme marks of greatness that no one else could ever attain. However, one of them, named Kundana, firmly stated, "I declare with certainty that when the prince grows up, he will renounce the world and become a monk. This is inevitable." Upon hearing this, King Suddhodana was filled with distress. He began to devise a plan to prevent his son from choosing the path of renunciation. The king's strategy was to construct 3 magnificent palaces for the prince, one for each of India's 3 seasons: summer, the rainy season, and winter. In the summer palace, there was a pond filled with blue lotus flowers. In the rainy season palace, red lotuses, and in the winter palace, white lotuses. These palaces were interconnected by beautiful pathways. Within each palace, the king arranged for court ladies to perform music, dance, and entertainment, surrounding the prince with every worldly comfort. After the sages had examined the prince, the king named him Siddhartha. The name, Siddhartha, means he who achieves all his goals, a name reflecting the king's hope that his son would fulfill all royal aspirations. King Suddhodana then redoubled his efforts to surround the prince with every worldly pleasure. His strategy was simple. He wanted to immerse Siddhartha in constant music, dance, feasts, and entertainment, hoping these distractions would occupy the prince's mind and prevent him from dwelling on deeper thoughts. Deeply troubled by the sage's prophecy that his only son would renounce the throne to become a monk, the king felt that all his power and the royal succession would lose their meaning if the prince were to leave. To him, the throne was worthless if there was no heir to inherit it. 7 days after giving birth to the prince, Queen Maya passed away. Consequently, the prince was brought up by his aunt, Queen Mahapajapati, who was also Queen Maya's younger sister and a wife of the king. Mahapajapati took the prince into her own care. Remarkably, she entrusted her own son Nanda to the care of wet nurses, choosing to nurse and raise her sister's son herself. You can see how blessed the prince was. He was deeply cherished by everyone, and his own aunt devoted herself entirely to raising him. even setting aside her own child to ensure the prince received the best of care. As the prince grew older, his exceptional qualities and brilliant nature became increasingly evident. Born into royalty, he received a world-class education and became accomplished in both the literary and martial arts. His intelligence was truly unmatched. Whenever he studied under a master, he would grasp years of the teacher's knowledge in just a short time. By the age of 6 or 7, his wisdom not only matched that of his tutors, but even surpassed their own, often leaving them in awe of his extraordinary intellect. In martial arts, the prince was exceptionally gifted. During an archery competition, while the greatest archers could pierce 3 copper shields, the prince shot a single arrow that pierced through 7. This feat alone proved his extraordinary skill. Yet despite being a man of such talent and power, he possessed a deeply sensitive and compassionate heart. Although he was a prince, he treated all the servants and staff in the palace with great kindness and respect. His compassion extended beyond humans to all living creatures. If a dog was injured, he would gently hold it and bandage its wounds. He cared for rabbits, birds, and every creature in need. Everyone who knew him felt the warmth of his boundless love. He was a truly complete human being with an exceptionally noble character, a virtue that made King Suddhodana love and cherish his son even more. The prince grew up in a world of absolute luxury. It is said in the scriptures that he never even stepped directly on the ground. Everywhere he went, carpets were laid out for him, protecting him from the dew and the dust of the world. He lived a life wrapped in silk and comfort. To ensure this, King Suddhodana issued a strict decree. Anyone in the city showing signs of old age or frailty had to be removed. Anyone who was ill or coughing was sent away. Even the dead could not be buried or cremated within the city walls. All funeral rites had to take place outside. Why? Because the king did not want his son to witness any of the suffering inherent in human life. Inside the palace, there were only the young, the healthy, and the strong. By shielding Siddhartha from the realities of sickness, aging, and death, the king hoped to suppress any thoughts of renunciation and keep his son firmly on the path to the throne. Living within the palace walls, Siddhartha's youthful curiosity grew. Tired of the endless cycle of music, dance, and superficial entertainment, he longed to discover what lay beyond the city gates. Driven by this desire, the prince slipped out of the palace on 3 separate occasions. On his first excursion, Siddhartha secretly ventured out through the northern gate, accompanied by his charioteer Channa. As they rode through the countryside, the prince suddenly spotted an old man. He was hunched over a cane, his skin deeply wrinkled, and his hair and beard were stark white. Confused, for he had never seen such a person in the sheltered palace, Siddhartha asked, "Channa, what kind of being is this?" Channa replied, "Your Highness, that is an old man." Siddhartha inquired, "What does it mean to be old?" Channa explained, "It is the natural course of life. As one lives for many years, the body withers, the skin wrinkles, the hair turns white, and the back bends." Siddhartha then asked with deep concern, "Will I too one day become old like him?" Channa somberly replied, "Yes, Your Highness, we all must age. Even you too will eventually grow old." Deeply troubled and lost in thought, Siddhartha lost all desire to continue his journey and ordered his charioteer to turn the carriage back to the palace. The following week, the prince secretly ventured out once more, this time through the eastern gate. As they traveled, they suddenly came upon a person lying beside a puddle, coughing up blood and phlegm, their face covered in sores and visibly ill. Siddhartha ordered the carriage to stop. "What kind of being is this?" he asked. Channa replied, "Your Highness, this is a sick person. They are afflicted with a terrible illness, suffering from a lung disease, coughing up blood, and are too weak to move." Siddhartha asked, "What does it mean to be sick?" Channa explained, "It is the nature of life, Your Highness. As we age, our bodies naturally fall prey to illness, sores, and inflammation. It is a state of intense suffering. You are healthy and strong now, so you have not yet experienced it, but eventually you too will fall ill. Everyone, without exception, must face sickness. It is a life of agony." To help the prince understand, Channa pinched him, saying, "The pain you feel now from this pinch is but a fraction of the agony one feels when sick. The pain of illness pierces deep into the bones." Siddhartha grew silent and somber. As he ordered the carriage to return, he was consumed by the realization, "I too will eventually be struck by such sickness and lie there in agony." He returned to the palace deeply disturbed and lost in contemplation. 1 week later, Siddhartha went out once more, determined to explore the remaining gates of the city. As they traveled toward the southern gate, they spotted a group of people from a distance, dressed in white, with sounds of weeping filling the air. Upon approaching, they saw 4 men carrying a stretcher, upon which lay a body covered with a white shroud. Siddhartha asked, "What are they doing?" Channa replied, "Your Highness, this is a funeral procession. They are taking this deceased person to be cremated." Siddhartha decided, "Let us follow them, for I must witness this." They followed the procession to the banks of a river. The pallbearers lowered the stretcher and removed the cloth, revealing the lifeless body. Siddhartha asked, "What does it mean to be dead?" For he had never seen a corpse before. Channa explained, "Your Highness, this is death. They can no longer move, speak, laugh, or eat. They know nothing anymore. Within a few days, this body will decompose and must be discarded. They are no longer a person." Struck by this revelation, Siddhartha asked, "Will I too die?" Channa somberly replied, "Yes, Your Highness. Even you cannot escape it. Everyone who is born must inevitably face death. When death comes, one must abandon everything. Parents, siblings, wives, children, all must be left behind." The prince was consumed by sorrow. He thought to himself, "I am young and full of life, yet one day I too must become a corpse, lying still and lifeless." He ordered the carriage to turn back to the palace. Upon his return, Siddhartha became deeply introspective. He was haunted by profound questions. Why must a human life be bound by aging, sickness, and death? What is death truly? How can something so vibrant suddenly become so motionless, unable to speak, laugh, or breathe? These questions echoed in his mind day and night, leaving him deeply unsettled. No matter how the court ladies sang or danced, he found no joy. King Suddhodana, noticing his son's sudden melancholy and lack of spirit, became deeply concerned. The king redoubled his efforts, organizing grander banquets and hiring the most famous court jesters and performers to entertain the prince. Yet, Siddhartha remained detached and sorrowful. He could no longer find pleasure in these superficial distractions, for he had seen the truth of human existence. He kept asking himself, why must it be this way? 3 weeks later, seeking relief from his melancholy, the prince ventured out once more, this time through the western gate. As they traveled, Siddhartha caught sight of a figure in the distance wearing yellow robes. "Channa? Who is that?" he asked. Channa drove the carriage closer and replied, "Your Highness, that is a monk." Intrigued, Siddhartha stepped down from the carriage and approached the monk, bowing respectfully. The monk returned his greeting. Siddhartha asked, "What is your purpose? Why have you chosen this path?" The monk answered, "I am a seeker of truth. I have renounced the world to extinguish all suffering and afflictions. I seek liberation from the cycle of pain, and I wish to help others overcome their own suffering, for I see how burdened this world is with sorrow." Upon hearing these words, Siddhartha felt as if his very heart had been touched. A profound vibration stirred within him, as if something he had long cherished from a past life had finally awakened. "This is it," he thought. "This is the path I must follow." He thanked the monk and commanded Channa to turn back. From that moment on, the prince harbored a secret ambition, the dream of renunciation. He became determined to find a way to end not only his own suffering, but the suffering of all beings, the agony of aging, sickness, and death, the struggles for survival, and the endless sorrows of the world. Having witnessed the harsh realities of life beyond the palace walls, Siddhartha finally understood the profound suffering that plagued humanity. The dream of renunciation was no longer just a fleeting thought. It was now deeply rooted in his heart, calling to him every hour of every day. Dear friends and followers of the Buddha, as King Suddhodana observed his son's growing detachment and strange, melancholic behavior, he became increasingly anxious. By this time, Siddhartha was a young man of 15 or 16, of age to take a wife. Desperate to keep his son in the palace, the king decided that marriage was the answer. He initiated a grand search for a bride among the neighboring kingdoms, eventually choosing the most virtuous and beautiful princess of them all, Princess Yasodhara. Princess Yasodhara was not only breathtakingly beautiful, but also a woman of profound virtue, a partner truly worthy of the prince. Their wedding was a magnificent affair. In truth, Siddhartha and Yasodhara shared a deep, genuine love, a bond that seemed to transcend their current lifetime. They lived a life of serene comfort within the palace, provided for in every way by the king. Yet, despite Yasodhara's grace and the idyllic life they shared, the prince's inner yearning for renunciation never faded. The call to seek the truth remained a constant burning fire within his heart. When the prince reached the age of 19, Princess Yasodhara gave birth to their son. As a husband and father, Siddhartha felt a profound love for his child, yet he also realized that this new responsibility was another fetter binding him to the palace. With this deep internal conflict, he named his son Rahula, which means fetter or obstacle. Siddhartha knew that if he did not leave now, the path would only become more difficult to tread, as his determination to seek liberation grew stronger with every passing day. That very night, the prince resolved to depart. The ties that bound him were tightening, and the king had layered them with so many responsibilities, yet Siddhartha knew the time had come. He had to leave. He had to break free. On the night of the 8th day of the 2nd lunar month, King Suddhodana hosted a grand banquet within the palace. Prince Siddhartha attended, but as the night deepened and the guests departed, the exhausted dancers and musicians fell into a heavy sleep right on the palace floor. Some lay disheveled, their makeup smeared, others snoring, or with saliva dripping from their mouths. As the prince passed through the hall, he was struck by the sight. In the dim light, these once beautiful performers now looked no different from corpses. The memory of the funeral he had witnessed years ago rushed back to him. He felt a deep sense of aversion. "These are the fetters that bind me," he thought. "This is the moment I must leave." He signaled his loyal attendant, Channa, to prepare his horse, Kantaka. Before leaving, the prince quietly entered his chambers for one last look at his sleeping wife and newborn son. With a heavy heart but an unyielding will, he closed the door and stepped out into the night. It was midnight on the 8th of February when the prince and Channa rode Kantaka, the finest horse in the kingdom, out of the city gates to begin his journey of renunciation. After traveling a great distance, they arrived at the banks of the Anoma River. There, Siddhartha finally spoke the truth to Channa. "Today, I have not come out for a pleasure trip. I have left the palace to pursue the path of a monk." He removed his royal garments and jewelry, handing them over to Channa to return to the king. He then donned the simple robes of a mendicant, which he had secretly prepared. It is said that Kantaka, the noble horse, sensing his master's resolve and the gravity of the moment, let out 3 mournful whinnies and, overcome with sorrow, fell and passed away on the spot. Channa was overcome with sorrow. He could not bear the thought of parting from the prince he served and loved so dearly. He pleaded to follow him into the forest, but Siddhartha gently refused, instructing him to return to the palace, deliver his royal attire to the king, and inform his father of his departure. Channa had no choice but to obey. Left alone, the prince embarked on his journey into the deep forests and rugged mountains to uncover the ultimate truth of existence. He was haunted by fundamental questions. Why are we born only to age, suffer, and die? Why must we endure the cycle of grief, anger, and loss? If we are to die, what is the meaning of life? Whether one is a king or a beggar, whether one is virtuous or wicked, death comes to all. Does life end with death? Why is there no permanence? For 5 years, he sought out the most renowned masters, mastering their teachings in a mere fraction of the time it took others. Though his teachers were awestruck and invited him to lead their disciples, Siddhartha moved on, for he realized they had not yet attained the absolute truth he sought. He then turned to the path of severe asceticism. He pushed his body to the limit, eventually reducing his diet to a single grain of sesame or rice per day. He became a mere skeleton, his skin clinging to his bones, his hair matted, his eyes sunken like deep wells. He later remarked, "No one has suffered as I have in the pursuit of truth." He practiced this extreme austerity with 5 companions, including Kaundinya, yet enlightenment remained elusive. One day, on the verge of collapse, he was discovered by a young village girl who offered him a bowl of goat's milk. As he regained his strength, a profound realization dawned upon him. Self-mortification does not lead to wisdom. It only punishes the body. He chose to follow the middle way, a life of balance. Seeing him eat, his 5 companions were disillusioned, accusing him of abandoning the path of renunciation, and they left him to continue his journey alone. The prince then continued his path alone. When the causes and conditions finally converged, he came to the foot of a Bodhi tree, sat in deep meditation, and made a solemn vow. "I shall remain seated beneath this tree. Even if my flesh and bones were to wither away, I will not rise until I have attained the ultimate truth." He entered into a state of profound meditation. For 49 days, he remained motionless, without food or drink, beneath the branches of the Bodhi tree. On the 49th night, every veil of ignorance and affliction was lifted from his heart. His mind became perfectly pure and luminous. In that moment, he grasped the true nature of the entire universe. He saw why life leads to death, and he saw it all with absolute clarity. He described the experience. It is like standing atop a high tower, looking down at a crossroads. I see people going left, going right, and I see the cycle of rebirth, where they come from and where they go. He realized, the truth is found. No shadows remain to cloud my wisdom. In that instant, he achieved all enlightenment. The Buddha became the fully awakened one. He realized that all beings possess the same potential for enlightenment as he did, though they simply do not yet know how to awaken it. That was the moment of his enlightenment. Upon attaining this state, he possessed the 6 supernatural knowledges: abhijna, the divine eye, to see across worlds; the divine ear, to hear all sounds; the knowledge of others' minds; the ability to manifest; the knowledge of past lives, knowing countless cycles of existence; and the knowledge of the extinction of outflows, meaning his heart was cleansed of all impurities. He had become a transcendent sage, a being who had risen above the world. After attaining enlightenment, the Buddha began his journey of teaching the Dharma. His first converts were the 5 ascetics, including Kaundinya, and from there he built a growing and vibrant Sangha. At that time, there were over 96 different religious sects, yet they all gradually faded as people turned toward the Buddha's teachings. For 49 years, the Buddha traveled far and wide, from the common folk to kings and ministers, dedicating his life to helping others. When the Dharma had flourished throughout the land, at the age of 80, the Buddha entered Mahaparinirvana in the Sala Grove, a sacred site that remains in India to this day. Dear friends and followers of the Buddha, for 49 years, he taught the path to liberation. Born into royalty with a beautiful wife, a beloved son, and unimaginable wealth, Prince Siddhartha dared to renounce it all at the prime of his youth, not for personal gain, but for the salvation of all beings, to free them from the endless cycles of suffering. Today, the Buddha's teachings have spread across the globe, reaching Europe and beyond, and have been officially recognized by UNESCO through the celebration of Vesak. In our journey to explore the garden of the mind, we all need such a guide. While this video cannot fully capture the depth and greatness of the Buddha, we hope it serves as an invitation for you to continue your own exploration. His is truly a transcendent soul, a magnificent presence that graced this world. The Buddhist Knowledge Hub channel would like to conclude our story here. Goodbye, and see you again in the next videos.